Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mercatani with another episode of Mat Chat, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. We've been talking about 5 minutes off air, folks. This is going to be a good one. Some crazy stories have already gone on. I am joined today by the executive director of Oklahoma USA Wrestling, Zach Randall, the head coach of Team Missouri girls team, Amon Prater, and the unofficial governor of Michigan, the guy that made Michigan Border Brawl go, one of the best wrestling clubs in the country, especially girls, though we'll get into that, Mario Flores. So I will use gentlemen in the loosest sense of the word. Thank you for joining me, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Have me.
Thanks for having us.
Good history. I have good history with all you guys, so this should be a lot of fun. So, anybody that watches this pod or watches Weighing In knows that the two events that I have a huge affinity for that I think are underrated are the U.S. Open, which just happened, and the Junior Duels. And the Junior Duels have evolved. I went to them back when they were in Oklahoma City. They've been in several different places. It was really a good recruiting ground. You could kind of get a lot closer to the athletes, especially me as a junior college guy. I was one of the few guys there, got a lot of help, and have been blessed. I think it's the last 3 or 4 years, Zach, that Hardell Moore and I, with some cameos by Christy Davis, cameos by Gary Mayab, Eric Guerrero, have done the play-by-play. There's been some barn burner dual meet finals, and a ton of superstars have come out of this meet that have gone on to wrestle at the senior level, at the college Division I level. So what we wanted to do, I presented this idea to Zach, and once Zach said it was a good idea, I knew it was a good idea, was I wanted to do 2 separate podcasts, one to preview the girls' tournaments and one to preview the boys' tournaments. And as things should be, we're going to go ladies first. So we're going to start with Zach. Zach, you've done a great job of growing the tournament. I know COVID had to, be a massive bummer, for lack of a better word. Can you kind of tell us on the girls' side, there's, I think, 2 separate tournaments, how many teams are in them, how the pools work? It's one of the things, I'm kind of like a Dodgers fan. I just come in and do the finals, so I don't necessarily know how it all works out. I know these guys do, they're in it, but the goal of this podcast is for people to be able to follow along. And so I'd kind of like you to kind of take it from the top down and explain some things.
Yeah, I love the format of the duels and kind of how it's evolved and setting up. So, basically what happens is the teams fall into pools, and then they wrestle out of those pools, and based on their placing from their pools, and they get put into another pool. And in that pool, they wrestle out, for placement. And so it's an awesome event in the sense that, and I think, wrestling coaches everywhere, we love it when our kids get to get lots of matches. I think the origins of the junior duels, when they started, that was the whole concept is the junior duels were, back in the day when we didn't have so many big national tournaments, was a great way to prep our kids for Fargo, to get them ready for Fargo and get them some matches, besides the regional tournaments where they could wrestle kids from all over the country. And, that's a great a way to do it, I think, and it still is. And so that's kind of how that format kind of got set up. Is so by pool wrestling, the kids get a ton of matches, and they get a lot of experience wrestling different teams and things of that nature. And so no matter where you fall out in your pool, place-wise, you always drop into another pool. And then obviously the top pool, the gold pool, that's the pool that, folks go into for the placement. This is also a great source of strategy for coaches. And any coaches that coach any of these dual tournaments know, your placement points from your regional tournaments, your returning All-Americans, your returning champions, that all comes into play and how you get seeded. And I've seen some crazy things happen in those lower pools where, some great teams, there's 3 teams ended up in a pool and somebody ends up not in that gold pool and not medaling just because of the strategy of the coaches. And so
let's walk through that, because everybody on this group knows I'm a numbers dork. Mm-hmm. So you guys can't call me a dork for the next 35 minutes, but and Amon can, he's close enough. He can double it. You guys got to wait. So But basically, there's criteria, like you said, for like returning. And for if anybody's new, Fargo is the high school nationals, cadets, and juniors. But for national champions, for even like regional champions, for All Americans, it's basically for the girls, it's only freestyle, right? Like being a state champ in your high school is not a criteria. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's based on the regional and national tournaments
So,
from the
but you
previous year. So not even from 2 years ago.
And you get
just the last
points,
year.
and then that becomes the seeding, and then they separate them. So let's say there's 16 teams, and they do 4 pools of 4. Then like pool A is 1, 8, 9, 16, and then on down the line, and they wrestle everybody. And then out of that, you'd have obviously 4 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, and then now they create 2 pools of 8, basically, where the 1s and 2s wrestle off. So in that scenario, you'd get 6 duels in however many days it is. Is that a fair assessment of things?
Yeah, that's a great summary of kind of how it works. And so the interesting thing is when those points add up, that's how we break the teams up into different pools. And so, you may have a really strong team that's young that doesn't have a lot of returning All-Americans on it and get, tossed into a pool with a bunch of, tigers and sharks and end up having to really fight your way out of the pool. Those finals matches in those pools sometimes are some of the best matches we have in the tournament. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I will say this. I will go with the negative first. The disadvantage of a dual meet tournament is sometimes the 2 best guys don't hit. So like if Mario and Amand are the 2 best guys or 2 best, girls, how we're talking about, they may not hit. But the advantages are huge. 1, you get to see these kids wrestle a lot more. 2, as a coach, you're not running around all over. Like if Mario's coaching Team Michigan on mat 14 for an hour and a half straight. Amon's coaching Team Missouri on mat 9 for an hour and a half straight. It's easier to actually help them improve. It's easier to get film. It's also easier if you're a mom or a dad. Like you can walk over by that mat and you're not, or like all of us at Fargo looking up, watching the board or watching our phones. And we've all been there for that. And there's something, and we cover a lot of college wrestling on my pod. There's something very cool about the dual meet format where kids don't get excited for each other at Fargo the way they do in Tulsa. It's just a different energy, and I'll kind of tell a couple of my own stories, but so Zach, that's basically the top down view. And for people that want to watch this stuff, it's streamed live. But that's the other thing, right? Like they can go, oh, mat 17 is Missouri against Michigan. Like I wanted to see CeCe Williams wrestle. I want to see Lena Vargas wrestle. Like this, like I can watch, like I don't have to be clicking around. I know it's going to be there. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Kind of just to wrap up that last part too. One of my favorite things about the duels, coming from a smaller size state, is the duels are the great equalizer, right? So like if you look at, let's just take the junior men finals last year, Iowa and Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma has about 3 million people total. Illinois has like 13 million people in the state. Heck, Chicago almost has 3 million people. Iowa has about 3 million people total. So you're getting states with smaller populations getting to compete against states with larger populations. And, really that's kind of a great equalizer for smaller states. You go to Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, they're, Michigan, they're 4, 5 deep, and states like, Missouri, Oklahoma, Iowa, we're only a couple deep because just of the population. So that's kind of a cool thing too, is that you get to see really kind of the best against the best on these teams, which really creates an awesome energy too, kind of as an equalizer in that sense.
Let me get into one more format thing and then we'll talk to the coaches. So with people that haven't watched this before, and trust me, the first year I was the commentator, this was a lot of fun. The dual meet scoring is very different, folks. If it's a decision and both teams score, it's 3 points for the winning team, 1 point for the losing team. So if Amand beats me 9-8, it's 3 for his team, 1 for mine. If Amand shuts me out, but it's not a tech fall, it's 3-0. If Amand tech falls me, but I score, it's 4-1. If he shuts me out in a tech fall, it's 4-0, and a pin is 5. I will bring this up because I actually, Zach, probably should have filed charges against all you Oklahoma people a couple years ago. I was on the mic. I'm sitting between Hardell and Guerrero, and it comes down to Plot wrestling Fidel Mayora, or what? I think it was Plot.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to shut him out. He has to pin him or tech fall and shut him out. And he wins 10-0. And it was like he gets a takedown to make it 8, and then gets in a lace, and he's got that, that old school slow lace. These idiots are high-fiving me, hitting me in the head. I'm like, we have to be professional. And they're like, the hell with that. So there's been a couple duels like that. Minnesota, and I think it was Minnesota and Ohio one year. They wrestled and then wrestled again, and it was the same exact team score, but 4 matches flipped. They just flipped 2 and 2. So these are awesome. I got to do the girls matches one year with Christy Davis, who's one of America's best and certainly one of Oklahoma's best. And so, I think we've done a pretty good job of setting the table. The last thing I'll say about that before I get to the other two guys are what's crazy is the kids get it. So like if Mario is beating me 8-0 and I get a step out, they go crazy because now it's like I can at least, if I don't get pinned, I got a point for the team. Or like if he's beating me 9-1 and I just keep it 9-1 and it's 3-1 instead of 4-1, or it was 9-0 and I can make it 9-1. All these things matter. And I always say on the other pod, in tournaments, your best kids win it, and in dual meets, your worst kids win it. So I think some of these kids, like I know Oklahoma won a ring a couple years ago, like that unfortunately might be the highlight of their academic life. And I'm not saying that might be it. So, all right, Mario, we'll start with Michigan. Let me first say that we did the Michigan Border Brawl, and I say together in the loosest sense of the term, and that I showed up, and you let me put my name on the marquee first. But your girls club is really amazing. I think you have 4 number 1 girls in the country, a ton of Fargo kids. The biggest compliment I can give you is my dad walked out of there and said, that Michigan team's got a bunch of hammers, and he's not impressed very easily. So tell the folks at home about Michigan and who all's coming and who's on the junior team and the cadet team and all that kind of stuff.
So on the women's side, first, thanks. We somehow got that one, that border brawl together. So
yeah, you did. I showed up.
I say that because the reason we're moving in the direction that we are is because we have really good families. The coaching staff on the women's side is awesome, and then the parents supporting these girls. They all rally every single time. They're all together, multiple times a week. So for us, we're just fortunate to have that group of girls and their parents behind everything that we're doing. So the movement there is you get good people doing good things, and then good things happen. So women's side, this is my first year as a women's director. So I've always been boy dominant up until COVID. And then we actually, Nick Simmons and Terry Pack, they invited us out to that ultimate club duels that they had during COVID. So that's kind of how we got started. And then, we've always had 1 or 2 girls, but we really weren't super girl dominant. And then all of a sudden, Sabrina Noss's dad, Jeremy Noss, jumped in and was like, hey, do you mind if I invite another girl? And then I showed up 2 weeks later and we had 25 girls. So Stacy Behrens was the lead on that one. And he was running, he was an assistant at Adrian College. And then he was, kind of running practices down there. And he was like, hey, do you mind if I use the space? And so we were, that's how Michigan girls got going, at least, post COVID. And then, the rest is history, I guess. But on the girls side, we're taking 2 teams. We're taking, we got Fargo finalists on the second team. That's how deep we are. When it comes down to, we have All-American girls, Fargo All-Americans that will be on the second team. And our first team, we're super happy with.
I would guess.
We're going to put it together. I got an amazing coaching staff. So I'm a people's guy, right? If the right people are in the right place, then things will go. And so we picked up our coaching staff is awesome. We got Steve Manuel, his daughter just made the world team. Sabrina Noss's dad, Jeremy, he's on staff. Working on the backside, I think we have Zoe Nowicki, 2-time national champ. Kaylin Pizzo, she was a longtime assistant for at Campbellsville for Coach Miracle there. She's the new head coach at Alma College. Who else did we get? Oh, Teresa Rankin. She was a 3-time All-American. So we really tried to focus on. We got Jamie Stens. She's a varsity high school female coach. I think she might be the only one in America. I definitely know she's the only one in Michigan. So she's a varsity high school coach, just on the female side, just being a woman wrestler.
Probably her and Vanderveer. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of them. So we picked her up, and she's got the whole north side of the state of Michigan covered. And
who are some of the best kids that people can look forward to seeing? Because when they go through the rankings, that like, oh, this person will be in it, that kind of stuff.
So when you go through it, you'll have Gigi Bragg at down low. She's a superstar. You'll have we go all the way up. So we have somebody good.
Wrestling?
Cecilia Williams is still on the fence. So they're trying to work it out. So if we get her, then that'll be.
She can stay home.
Yeah. she's got that short offense, man. It's dangerous.
Yeah, she's good.
So then you go all the way up. So we'll have Amarisa Manuel. She just made the world team. Everything up top. We got 2 number ones that close the deal with Sabrina Noss, Eliana Bomarito. She's won a couple Fargo titles. She's number 1 in the country. And then you'll throw in Kaylin Garrett, who's a top 10 girl in the country at like 200 on that first team. We're going to be competitive. I think if we can put it all together, we got
Lou Holt's School of the Blind over here. If everything works out, we might be okay.
I've never gone, right? I know wrestling math and I know dual math. So, that +2 and +5 is going to matter. So for some of our hitters, if they can get it done, and some of our girls that are not so much, are going to have to win the duels for us, right? I know that our horses are going to run, but I think that our supporting cast is going to be what's going to, put us, how far we go into the tournament is really going to kind of separate things there.
You mentioned 2 of the good guys at the front of this with Terry Pack and Nick Simmons. And Terry Pack's actually the one that introduced me to you, Mario. And so you guys should know this. The wrestling's such a great world. Like, he goes, hey, if you're running an event in Michigan, you need to talk to Mario Flores. So I text him, and he goes, call me at this time, this exact time. I go, okay. So I call him, and I'm on speakerphone, and it sounds like he's at a Taylor Swift concert. There's just like 30 girls there that all saying they want to wrestle. It's at the end of his practice. He's like, all right, I got 9 matches for you, coach. I was like, 9 matches? I'm like, let's get it. So then but we ended up getting all those All-American girls. It was, and Gary Abbott, who's the godfather at USA Wrestling, he said what a great event it was. There was 2 girls from Missouri, which we're going to get to, that actually lost and came into the rankings because they were in that event. So shout out to Gary for coming, and just, shout out to all the sponsors. I don't want to leave anybody out, but like the picture literally on the USA Rankings page is from Border Brawl. CC wearing her Nike singlet. All right, Aman, we're going to get into some Missouri things now. Going to buddy up a little bit. So you guys got a squad. You guys did really well last year. I know there's certain weights where you're like stupidly deep, like 3 All-Americans at a weight. And then there's other weights like everybody else where it's a little thinner. But first of all, you taken over as the head coach for Scott Cuthbert, who's now the director. Is that correct?
Yeah, Scott's been involved since the beginning, of our women's side, and the fact that we were able to get our state tournament up and running a couple of years ago, and we've seen the growth and the transition of that, which has really kind of spearheaded the movement, especially in the state of Missouri, bringing up young girls who've had some experience in other sports. Believe it or not, we've got a lot of girls on our squad that had, experience in jiu-jitsu before they even started wrestling. And so a lot of that youth in terms of how they compete, we can attribute to that being competitive at an early age. So some of the young girls that are jumping on a scene, they've been competing, and we just kind of wanted to bring it all together. And Scott's been doing a great job getting our foot in the door, and we just want to be able to continue to ramp up the competitiveness of our team and bring all our younger girls up to the same level. So a lot of girls that we have in college right now were part of that initial Missouri movement. JC Feller, she's on staff with us this year. She just took second at nationals, but we're trying to get those young girls involved, and we're excited about our chances this year for sure.
Who are a couple of the hitters that Missouri's bringing down to Tulsa?
So Maddie Kubicki, she's our favorite, curly haired girl, got a beautiful smile, but she's tenacious, and we love seeing her ready to compete at 144. She just took third down at Women's Nationals last month, but again, she's been a favorite of ours just in terms of knowing how to compete. I'm not sure if Haley Ward's going to make the trip or not. She was she may be an alternate for that Pan Am team, kind of based on the other situation we have going. But she'd be a great hitter for us, and we're bringing two national finalists at our upper weights with Catherine Dutton and Mariah Brumley at 200 and 180 respectively.
Yeah, I mean, and like you mentioned the jiu-jitsu thing. So like we had some of these girls in our event, like Angelina Vargas from Park Hill.
Yep.
Kind of crazy. She wrestled in the fall border brawl and lost to a girl from Oklahoma. She went the whole season. The only girl she lost to was Bella Williams, who Zach, I'm sure from Oklahoma. Then she goes and wrestles Cece, and her mom's awesome. She'll see this. So Mandy, I love you. But she's like, every time I send my kid to your event, she loses. I go, that just means we're getting her good matches. That's what you want, right? Like you want good matches. So, yeah. And like I know Kate Cooper is recovering from a surgery right now.
Yeah.
But she's another girl that's really good in Missouri. I met Maddie out in Vegas. She had a really good tournament out there. Ava Ward's another girl in Missouri that may not make the team, but is a world team member, I think, or right up there, right?
Ava, she's on the world team. Jaden Keller, she's another one of our lightweights that we're bringing at 106, and again, just waiting for her to explode on the national scene. She's due for it, and I'm excited about her tournament that she's been.
I want to say this the right way. I think, like you mentioned, Ahmad, how like just to put it simply, organized girls wrestling has not been around as nearly as long as organized boys wrestling. I think that's a super safe statement to make. But I also think, and I just kind of run events. I'm like 50,000 feet. I'm not in the day-to-day with it as much. But talking to these girls, and when I make these phone calls with the girls, it's always a mom or dad on the phone at the same time, just so everything, there's no any possible miscommunication. But they seem really grateful, like just for the opportunities. Like, I guess I'll start with you, Mario. Do you sense like maybe, I don't want to say guys are ungrateful, maybe they're just a little more jaded and used to it, but just that they're really grateful to be able to have wrestling in their lives? Is that crazy, or am I onto something there?
Yeah. So when you 100%, but think about this, if it takes a certain type of girl combat athlete, right, to be a wrestler. So when they, and it's not super common in their schools, it's not super common in their friend groups. It's just not super common in their day to day. But they show up to an all girls practice and they find their people, and they're like, "You're like me, right? You have competitive drive. You have obstacles to overcome. You love double legs." And so when they see this, they're like, "Yes, I'm grateful that I get to do what I love with people that see the world like I do." So that piece of gratitude with girls is something that you see sometimes with boys, but boys are in a state of development just in their minds where they're growing, right? Where girls may be mature, they're emotionally more mature, they're physically developing earlier, and so for them, they're able to kind of put those things together, and they found someone to invest in them. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing on the women's scene across the country is you're getting high quality coaching, jumping in, right? So you're having in Missouri, you guys have all kinds of stuff. Ashley Pagonis is going on, and that type of stuff. So you got Bull Train going. So you're having high level wrestlers here. Here we have with myself. We have Ben Giles. We have Simmons. We have Massa. Right. So they're opening things and that's happening in every state. Right. So you're having high quality people jump in on the girls scene and providing these girls with opportunities that maybe they weren't getting a handful of years ago. They were getting it, but it was pockets of it. Now we're just really pushing that mainstream piece. And so you're getting other girls that are coming out of other sports and jumping in, right? You're having gymnasts, you're having jujitsu girls. Alexis Lazar, she came from gymnastics. She's going to be on the 14U team. So you have these girls that are coming in and they're just jumping levels because they're getting the right environment. And who's not grateful for that, right?
No,
if I'm a parent and I'm a dad, I do anything for my daughter. I'm like on the cheerleading float committee. I'm the volunteer guy making cupcakes. I'm doing whatever I have to do, especially as a dad, make sure my daughter, is treated fairly and I'm just going to support her anyway. But now I have a daughter who wrestles and now I'm a mom who has a daughter who wrestles. You got two parents that are ready to rock or whoever their support system is.
It's empowering. And I think all of us wrestled and all of us really, I think wrestling impacted our life in a positive way, or we wouldn't be here now. Like you talk about coaching staffs, and I'm super biased, but my dad's on the girls coaching staff at Fargo, and he wanted to be there. Like he didn't even know how to apply. Like I had to help him get the application done. I'm like, I'll call him on. I think you got a pretty good chance. I mean, we have to, shine up your resume. Not too many people know about you, but so, so I guess I'm on, like, I know some of the girls on that team, and, we have a couple girls training with us at our club. I know you brought the whole team up there when I was at Coralville, so maybe just kind of tell people about that. Cause I think it is great that guys like you, guys like Mario, all the people on these staffs, I honestly think I think in the beginning, there's a lot of people like, I guess we have to have women's wrestling for Title IX, right? I think if people are honest, a lot of people said that, well, the wrestling's not very good. I think the old time people said that. And then it's like, well, the reason why it's not good, if it is because you guys are treating it like a second-rate sport. You're not investing any money in it. You're not investing any expertise into it. And now you got, guys like you two coaching, a guy like Zach applying his management expertise to running a female tournament with the same pride as a man's tournament or a boys tournament. And now we're actually seeing these kids are really good. They just, they happen to be the other gender, but skill is skill. So, you've obviously been heavily invested in this. What are some of your takeaways? Because you're a guy that's a D1 athlete in a top 10 room. I'm interested in your perspective on that.
I think the commitment, like Mario said, the language doesn't change. Girls want to be pushed. They want to be the best. And so if we can expose them to high level training environments early and often, then they reap those benefits later on, whether it's going back to give, to coaching, whether it's finding that coach they want to, wrestle for in college. That's the whole point of how we grow the sport. Because again, we know that we need more programs. We need more women's programs at the D1 level. We need more programs at any level of wrestling is going to benefit by the communication that we give our parents and our athletes. And we talk about our young athletes. The parents are young too. They don't know how to sign them up for tournaments. They don't know, what they're supposed to be doing or how to prepare or, food and that. And so if we drop them, in a place where they're going to be supported on every level, everybody benefits. And again, the state of Missouri, we've got 7 college wrestling programs that need women, they need girls. And so the more we can expose them, and then the fact, I think Mario said it earlier, we're getting the high school coaches involved as well. They want to be there. So why deny them the opportunity to be involved? It just helps us with that process. So we're not butting heads by any means, because we're seeing the growth across the country. So as much as we can, we want to be there for the girls. We want to support them. And again, being a Division I athlete, we know what it takes for them to train and to compete at a high level. So we're bringing them there. We know, what they have to be exposed to. We know the coaches they need to make face contact with. And so being a former college coach, I'm all about conversations. The more conversations and the more positive mindset we can put in our girls, it benefits everybody.
Yeah, you know me, I'm not big into networking at all, but it's good you guys are. So the two things that I think I took away that are different than what I thought was like I didn't really think about them on the fact that the girls need structure. I know that everybody needs structure, but that they're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
That they're not used to the structure of a wrestling team. And then Mario, I thought what you said, and I know everybody agreed because I saw everybody nodding, was like, it's like you said, like being a tough guy growing up, like that's kind of what you're supposed to be. So when you walk into a wrestling room, like, okay, you better be tough. To be a female, especially at a younger age, that wants to do athletic, combative things versus the traditional things, it's probably harder to find your people, to use your phrase, Mario. And so I never thought about it that way, but it actually makes sense because we're coaching some girls now at our club, and they kind of light up when they see each other. I don't really think about it that way. So I appreciate you guys educating me on that. Zach, to go back to you and I were talking off air, the growth of the tournament overall. And you will probably be my first back-to-back guest, Zach, because you'll be on next week when we do the boys one too. Because if nothing else, I'm going to need to referee like Fellers and Bobby Cook. So like, we're going to do an over-under on how many winners win we hear. So, but how many teams are you expecting? Can you break down the age groups of the girls tournaments and how many teams and states are you expecting in both of those?
Yeah, super excited about this. And I think this kind of speaks to what the coaches are talking about, right? Is this explosion in women's wrestling. And, I liken it a lot when I'm talking with folks outside of our sport, even where I'm trying to generate energy towards women's wrestling is, and we're kind of country here in Oklahoma, but to me, women's wrestling is kind of in a pioneer state, right? And so they're giving it their all. They're out there in the open range trying to make it. And, when you're in that state, I think you're so gracious and appreciative of any support you get. And then, just watching the athletes, struggling in that pioneer stage, trying to make it happen, it just makes you want to give your heart to that, as a coach and a lover of wrestling. And I think that's why there's so much buy-in from all the coaches and in the wrestling community, because we love to see that, right? That these girls are pioneering something, and it's hard. And man, they are super appreciative. And even the coaches too, like, are super appreciative of any support. So I love to see that support, from a state level, a national level, folks getting involved, people even outside the wrestling community, and realizing that it's just an awesome part of our sport now. We always say wrestling is wrestling, right? Like, we don't have women's and men's wrestling. We have wrestling now. And that's part of how we look at it philosophically. And so it's super great to see. I mean, the women numbers are jumping like crazy. We have 35, I think, or 36 teams, junior women's teams right now registered. And you've heard these coaches talk. I mean, they're bringing it. Like, it was funny to hear Coach Mario, wonder about he's bringing like the superstar team. He's like, I hope we do okay. I'm like, oh my God. And so
you may not end up in the copper pool.
He was like, well, we got 5 national champions on our team. I hope we break out of the pool. I'm kind of like, whoa. So it's super cool. That tournament is as big as the men's freestyle tournament, and that's what we want to see. And so I think that's a beautiful reflection of the growth and the commitment of all the people at USA Wrestling and all the coaches around the country. Super excited to see those numbers. So it's going to be that women's tournament's going to be a humdinger. And so what's kind of interesting about the women's side, and I think in the wisdom of the development of this, USA Wrestling combined the cadets and the juniors, and they form an actual junior team. And so when we talk about juniors at the tournament, it's cadets and juniors. And then we have also a U14 division. And
that's under 14, just for people that don't know. So it's 14 and under. Okay. Yes. And how many teams do you have entered in that? Do you know, or school? Or
yeah, 16 now. And we came out of last year, I think we had 5. And so, wow. Statistically, when you look at the numbers of the growth of women wrestling, it's amazing. It's so promising, and I love to see it. It's incredible. Those tournaments, they're going to be impressive to watch. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see Missouri and Michigan battling out. It's going to be an awesome time. There's going to be some great matches.
Probably both in the copper pool with these two guys the way they're sanding in this neck.
I'll take my 5 world team members and go to the copper pool. See you guys in the backside. Sure, Mario. Exactly. You're not pulling over on any of us. We know what you're coming with.
I don't know. We got this one kid that only won state 3 times. I don't know how she's going to do. Yeah. So I will tell people this. Junior Duels is held in a place called the Cox Convention Center. It actually is very similar, Mario, to where Border Brawl was held in Michigan. We're actually holding Border Brawl next year in one of the ballrooms inside of Cox. They're the one that the Junior Duels in. I don't know why I'm doing this like it matters, but it's in a big airplane hangar. It's gigantic. And Zach, I think it's at least 20 something mats that go down, correct?
Yeah, it's awesome. And, I definitely want to give a shout out on this and the next one, the Tulsa Sports Commission and Joel and all those folks. They do such a great job of supporting this. They really bring it. And it's awesome. There's 20 mats laid out, 2 on the stage. Finals are platformed. We got great support, live commentary. I mean, they really, really support this event in Tulsa. And it's a beautiful event. It's really great. Lots of space, lots of viewing room. I mean, it's a great venue to have an event. I'm really excited about it, and they really bring it.
Joel Kester's the freaking man. We got our times mixed up. He's going to jump on next week for the boys one, but he is the Tulsa Sports Commissioner. I met Joel originally through Junior Duels, but then as the lead announcer for the Big 12s. And that guy, we've all been places where you're made to feel welcome and you're made to feel not welcome. Like that guy, when we go to Big 12s, he's got a spot waiting for us to watch the Big 10s. He got a table for us set up for Saturday night for the UFC. Like it's those little things that make people feel welcome. When we walked in Michigan, like Mario's got people waiting for us. We're taking pictures of the facade and the billboard, and it's all those things. And as somebody that runs events, I have, certainly not on the scale that you guys are running them, but like Zach, your son wrestled in our event, and you try to make it as cool as you can, and smoke and mirrors and running out of the tunnel and all these things that at the end of the day, when you're done with wrestling, all you have are your character and your memories. And so to create these memories for these kids, we always say on our other pod, the things you learn from wrestling, all the good qualities you get out of them are no more applicable to a man or a woman, a boy or a girl. They're gender neutral. Like, hard work, responsibility, accountability, winning with grace, losing with dignity, all those kind of things. It doesn't matter how you were born or any of that stuff. So the other thing I think that is cool is Tulsa is holding the Nationals in March, obviously. So if people come down, then kind of see, people like, is Tulsa going to be big enough? I'm like, those dudes are crazy, insanely organized. Like they're going to have food trucks out there in between sessions. Like Joel kind of laid out. I'm like, y'all trying to win that bid on a regular basis, on the regular. So, there's a lot of cool stuff there. There's some rooftop hotel bars that me and the Nike boys usually try to visit. So there's, it's a fun town, and it's also nice to go to a state like Amon. We live in St. Louis, and this is not a wrestling, this is a professional sports town. This is, baseball and hockey. And, so it's very cool. Like when I go visit, and don't punch me, Zach, but, you go visit Iowa, or you go visit, like I was in Coralville, they love wrestling there. They love wrestling in Tulsa. And it's cool to go to a place where wrestling, like when you walk into the hotel, it's like, welcome wrestlers, welcome Junior Duel wrestlers. When you go to a place to eat lunch, the barbecue place says, welcome Junior Duels wrestlers. I know it's maybe people watching don't think that's a big deal, but to me, I wrestled when I made the year I won junior or cadet nationals. We didn't even have a team. Like I just went with my dad and my brother and my mom. So to see this now, that also tells everybody who wasn't sure how old I am, which is not cool. But I'm like, you guys are all at different ages and stages of this, but it's so cool that these kids, and specifically this week, we're talking about these young ladies, get to wrestle and be on the platform. And this is the same platform a couple years ago where they did the Greco World Team Trials. It was the same thing. And they stopped the tournament and did that. And I was doing the play-by-play with Gary Mayab. And you know, it's crazy. I remember like watching Adam Kuhn wrestle Robbie Smith and a bunch of matches like that. And there's something about like, hey, I get to be in the same meet as Jackson Randall or Mario Flores or Amon Prater. Like, so maybe I'm not that good, but I can be that good because, you know, we always have like some younger kids in our event and like, okay, now I'm maybe I'm not on that level, but at least we did the same thing one time. And that's, you know, you kind of how to believe it. So, we got a couple of minutes left. So Mario, I'll give you, you can, you know, collect donations if anybody else wants to move any more national champions into Michigan in the next couple of weeks, because you know you guys are suffering. Any last words on when your school blind over there?
No, you know, Coach Prater, he talked about organizing and walking people through. I think organization, Adam Wilson, he's our national teams director, and Steve Richardson, these guys are putting in hours. I was driving home after practice 11:55 at night, and I'm getting text messages. Hey, you got to have your roster in. Hey, we got to have this. And then I work till late in the morning, and then all of a sudden I'm getting a text again, 3 hours later, and I'm like, did you sleep? And he's like, no, we got to get things going. So that part of the dedication on the back end, I think, is what's really going to drives anything, right? It's the people driving
You were that guy for Michigan Border Brawl.
It was a long day that day. So we were gonna. It was
like us will always be eternally grateful. And I had more girls tell me it was the coolest experience of their life.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Yeah. But real back to it. It's the walking the parents through that. And if I have one thing to say, it's like there are so many new girls that we have to give permission to ask the silly question. How do I do this? Can you walk me through it? It's not silly if it's going to give you, it's just bridging the gap in little bits of information that are going to allow you to be on the team. And if you have to ask a silly question, having coaches that are kind of understanding and empathetic, that are going to be like, okay, let me walk you through it. I have dads on the phone. I had one yesterday. Let me get on. I'll put my phone down. I'm going to ask you all the questions and I'm going to walk you through every single step. And then we're going to hit send. And then I'll see you on. Okay, so now I'm going to be at camp on Saturday. Yes, Michigan's done a great job. We've got 6 team camps lined up and an overnight camp. So those guys over on the Michigan side, I just I'm super proud of them, and grateful to be a part of what they're doing. And I feel like it's going to show with us bringing the largest Michigan contingent I think that we've brought in several years. So.
Yeah, it's good because none of those girls are any good. So I'm glad you got them really organized so they can work on
stuff. Yeah, organized.
Yeah, Coach, I hope you make it out of the pool there. I hope
teach you guys how to not get 4-pointed out of a quad pod. So, Armand, we know a lot of the same people. I'll say this, like one of the cool things for me is doing the pod is you get to be the face of the stuff. But, I always try to thank the people that helped me get here. Like when Mario said my mom taught me there's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance is you've never been taught, you've never been told. Stupidity is when you've been repeatedly been told and just refuse to pay attention. So I also want to give you a chance to shout out or thank some of the people either on your staff, obviously the Cutbursts of the world. Who do you want to thank at Missouri for, putting together, helping you quarterback this whole thing?
Absolutely. We get to be the face when it's good and when it's bad. And so the fact that we have a great support staff from every level, that just goes to say, hey, my job is easier because I have a director who takes everything seriously, who's on top of deadlines. I've got coaches who we don't get paid. This is a volunteer position. This is something that we're investing in terms of taking away from our family, and we love it. So I'm appreciative of all of our women's staff for sure, because what we're trying to do is bring the next generation of women's coaches. So as many girls as I can get on my staff, I've got 2 head coaches of our women's programs that are up and coming. I've got, former, athletes, female athletes that I'm excited about. And so again, it's a collective state in Missouri, and I'm excited about our growth, especially on the coaching side.
I want to give Cutbirth a shout out because my dad, who I adore and love and idolize, is part of your staff, and doing just even some of the things like adding an app to his phone, like I'm not in any way making fun of my dad.
Yeah,
It's just when you're in your
gotta
70s, that's just not normal. And him walking through and even texting me like, hey, please make sure your dad does this. Like, that means a lot to stuff like me. Zach, you're obviously the quarterback of a big team over there that's running it. So I'll kind of let you have the last word. Who are some of the people that are responsible for this thing coming off so well every year?
Yeah, first it's all these guys, right? It's Mario and Amand and all the states that are doing all this work to bring these teams. And any of us that have done this know it takes a whole village. It takes an army at the state level to get teams into events, and that's really what makes this. That's what makes it possible for all our kids. So I would start with definitely them. They're all doing an incredible job. All the states. I'm really just amazes me how much volunteer time goes into making wrestling happen at this age level. And then also the Tulsa Sports Commission. I mean, they did an incredible job supporting us and supporting event. We're real lucky in Oklahoma. We've got a lot of great support from our collegiate coaches. Our high school coaches are incredible, doing a great job. And, also to the parents. Like, I know we talk about that, but man, the parents that are part of this pioneer movement that are taking their girls to these tournaments and taking them to practices and sometimes driving hours to get to a good practice or get to a good clinician, like, definitely appreciate all their work, because without all that, without the parents and the state organizations, I mean, I don't think we have as great of a thing as we do. And we are great. USA Wrestling is awesome. And it's because everybody gets together. And I love that. I mean, to me, that's the coolest thing about wrestling, is that we all get together and we do it for the love of it. And even you guys, I mean, I just appreciate you guys too.
Yeah, USA Wrestling has been very kind to me and to Grant Turner and to Mark Ostrander in terms of us podcasting. And they've never told me once, I don't know if I've ever said that, they've never told me once, don't talk about something or do talk about something. So I think that's important for people to know. I'm talking about junior duels because David Mirikitani loves freaking junior duels. Like, first of all, Hardell Moore is he's probably the governor of Oklahoma down there if he ever decides to run.
And he certainly thinks so. I never met anybody that doesn't like Hardell, for sure.
I'm saying, like, if you don't like Hardell, you have a people problem. Yes, so yes. He's also just awesome to do commentary with. He's a guy who's intellectually generous. He doesn't make you just be the play-by-play, and he gets to be the smart guy. He lets you bounce back and forth, which is my favorite way to do it. And, so I really enjoy seeing him. It's great for me to see, like, I always stop by and bug the Missouri team, see how they're doing. And, now I can stop by and bug Michigan and act like I'm important for 5 minutes. And so it's a great, I just tell people it's an awesome experience. If you can't go, watch the live streams, support these kids, submit your commentary to Flow. Like, we love this event, that kind of thing. I'm also buddies with a bunch of the referees. I became really good friends with, like, Lewis Baker last year because he was sitting up in that perch when I was doing the commentary. And, like, after you sit with me for an hour talking about wrestling, you're either going to love me or hate me. There's no 50-yard line. You're in one end zone or the other, So it's just fun. Last year we helped run the Black Wrestling Association Gala there, tied to Juneteenth and Black Wall Street and all those things. And like, I know, Amon, you're a part of that too. So there's a lot of things that come together there. If you come down, I encourage you to actually see that part of town. It's moving. I want to say that respectfully. I think Amon might be that
absolutely
is moving the right way to say that. Like, just it's impactful. And so all these different things that USA Wrestling has allowed me to be a part of has been great. So I will say good luck to Mario. I will say good luck to Amon. You guys are equally my friends, but if it's in the finals, I'm rooting for Missouri to win by 1. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so
that push out point. Come on.
Let's go.
So Zach, thank you for helping me put this together. And just so the people know, we're going to try something new while we're at Junior Duels. We're going to do a preview, I would guess somewhere between 5 to 10 minute, maybe 15-minute podcast at the end of each session. So I might be grabbing one of you guys, depending on how things go. but it's going to be Zach, Hardell, myself, and a couple cameos by, better looking people than us to talk about what happened and what for people to watch for. Because I think the only way to grow this as a coach, I never thought about this, but in media, the term you always hear is storyline. So you have to, you don't have to create the storylines. You have to create awareness of the storylines. And so, please tell your fellow coaches from your states and other states that we're trying to do this. And if we need to inconvenience them at 5 minutes at the end of the day, it's with pure hearts. And, we're trying to do our part. I came to Zach, I think, with this idea like in December. And I'm like, let's try to grow junior duels and let's specifically try to grow girls wrestling. And so hopefully this will help. If nothing else, we shot our shot, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate you guys.
yeah. So
Appreciate you,
Amand and
David.
Mario, safe travels.
Thank you.
And Zach, I will see you next week on the pod, and we'll all see you in about 2 weeks down in Tulsa.
See you
All right,
guys.
fellas. Yep. Take care.
Don't hang up quite yet. We got to sign off the right way. For Mario, Amand, and Zach, I'm David. Thank you for watching, listening, and sharing. We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.